Level 1. The line. It's a Tuesday. It's 11:40 at night, and you have been standing outside this club for 50 minutes. There's a rope. There's a man behind it with a clipboard he never looks at. Every few minutes he lets 4 people through, and none of them were behind you. You're 19. You have a fake smile and real shoes. He looks at you for about a second and a half. Then he says 2 words. Not tonight. 20 years from now, you will own this room. You will own the rope, the list, and the man holding it. And you will still never find out whose room it is. The guy standing next to you is named Dez. He's been talking the whole time. He doesn't want to get into this place. He wants a bar. 40 seats, a good tap list, a door that stays open. He says it like it's a small dream and he's embarrassed by it. 20 minutes in, Dez leaves. He says he's not going to stand in the cold for a room that doesn't want him. You stay. You stay another 30 minutes and then you get turned away anyway. Here's what you don't understand yet, standing out there. You think the line is about safety. You think there's a number, a fire code, a capacity, and when someone leaves, someone enters. That's what a line is everywhere else in your life. The bank, the airport. The bank teller doesn't decide you're not worth serving. Here, the line does a different job. Every minute you stand on that sidewalk, you are advertising this club to the street for free. A club with no line looks like a club nobody wants. A club with 60 people freezing outside looks like the only place in the city worth being. So, the man with the clipboard isn't managing a crowd. He's setting tonight's price, in public, in real time, using your body to do it. The 4 people he just waved through didn't skip the line. They are the line's advertising. They got waved through because of how they look walking in. Inside, right now, that room will take somewhere around $40,000 tonight. You will take -20. That's your cover charge for a night that ends on a sidewalk. You go home. You lie in bed doing the thing that ruins people. You're not angry at the rope. You want to be the man holding it. Level 2, the door. It takes you 8 months and a cousin who knows a guy. You get the clipboard. The first thing they give you is the jacket. And the jacket is the whole lesson. It's black, it's heavy, and it has the word security across the back and letters you could see from the other side of the street. You assume that's for the customer's benefit, so people know who to find. It isn't. It's a deterrent, and being seen is the entire job. Nobody trains you to fight. They train you to be visible, to stand where the light hits you, and to be the reason the fight doesn't start. A door guy who has to put his hands on someone has already failed the shift. The best night of your career is a night where absolutely nothing happens and you are extremely easy to see the whole time. You make $120 a shift. You learn the second thing fast, and it's smaller, and it lasts longer. You learn how to say, "Not tonight." You practice it in your head before you say it out loud. You find out it costs you nothing. You find out that most people just leave. Some argue for a second, and then they leave too. And you find out something ugly about yourself, which is that there's a small warmth in it, and you don't hate the feeling as much as you thought you would. You get good at it. You can size up a group in 2 seconds. 4 guys together is a problem. 4 guys and 2 women isn't. Nobody ever wrote that rule down. But everyone working the store already knows it, which means somebody decided it. And that's when you notice the list. There's always a list. Names, tables, who's expected, who gets walked past you without breaking stride. On your 3rd week, you ask, casually, who puts the names on it? The manager says, it gets sent over. You wait for the rest of the sentence. There isn't one. So you're holding the rope now. You decide who waits in the cold and who doesn't. You have exactly the power you wanted at 19, and it took you 8 months to get it. You just don't write the list. Someone hands it to you. The room still takes $40,000 tonight. You take $120. And you still don't know whose room it is. But you know one thing now. The list comes from whoever fills the room. So that's the job you go get. Level 3, the promoter. You get promoted by leaving. That's how this works. Nobody moves up inside a club. You move sideways into a different club with a better title, and one night the owner of a place across town watches you turn people away and asks if you can bring people instead. You say yes before you know what the job is. Here's what the job is. You have no wage. None. Not a low one. There isn't one. You are not an employee. You do not have a shift. You do not have an hourly rate, and if you have a bad night, you have simply worked for free. You get paid per head. Around $8 a person through the door with your name on it. For the first month, it's the best job you've ever had. You are being paid, in cash, to invite your friends to a party. You send 40 people through on a Saturday, and you walk out with $320 and a feeling that you have finally found the trick. Then you find out the rate isn't flat. The club does not pay the same for every person you bring. It pays more for women than for men. This is not a rumor, and it isn't one bad club. It's how promoter pay is structured across the industry, openly, in the actual rate sheets. The men you bring are worth a few dollars each. The women are worth more. You sit with that for a while, because it means the thing you've been doing for a month is not what you thought. You thought you were selling a club to your friends. You were selling your friends to a club, and the club had a price list, and your friends were on it at different prices, and you were the one who decided which of them got invited. You keep doing it. Of course you do. You're 22, and it's the most money you've ever made. But you start noticing that you text some people first, not because you like them more. The room takes $60,000 tonight. You take $8 a head. And you're beginning to understand that everything in this business has a rate, including the people you love. Level 4, the bottle. They move you inside, to the tables. This is where the actual money is, and the first time you see it, you don't believe it. A table goes for $2,000. For that, a group gets a couch, a section, and bottles. The bottles are the part that breaks your brain, because you have seen the invoice. You know what the club pays for that bottle? Nightclubs sell bottles at markups north of 200%, and at the high end of this business, the champagne markup gets genuinely absurd. The bottle is not the product. You figured this out on a Friday. Here's how a bottle actually arrives. The lights drop a little. Someone lights a sparkler and puts it in the neck. A server carries it above her head, slowly, on a deliberately long route through the busiest corner of the room. The music does a thing. Everyone turns and looks. Nobody is drinking that bottle. Half of it will be sitting there flat at closing. What the man at that table bought for $2,000 is 90 seconds of a room turning to look at him. You are not in the alcohol business. You are in the visibility business. The liquid is a prop, the sparkler is the product, and the route through the crowd is the delivery mechanism. Once you see it, you can't stop seeing it. You watch men buy the second bottle purely because the first one worked. You get very good at this. You learn who to seat where. You learn that a table in the corner is worth less than a table people have to walk past, and you learn to sell the walking past. You're making real money now on tip-outs, and you're 24, and you have started to look at the room the way the room looks at the line outside. The room takes $80,000 tonight, and you still don't know whose room it is. But you've stopped wondering about the rope. You want the office. Because the office is where they count it. Level 5, the manager. At 27, they give you the keys. Actual keys to the front door, the office, and the safe. You are the manager. You open the building at night and you lock it at dawn. And for the first time in 8 years in this industry, you get to see the entire number. You learn what a pour cost is, and then it runs your life. Pour cost is the percentage of a drink's price that the actual liquid costs. The industry runs between 18 and 24%. If you're above that, someone is overpouring, someone is giving away drinks to friends, or someone is stealing, and it is your job to know which. You start counting bottles at 4 in the morning. You start recognizing an $8 discrepancy the way other people recognize a face. You drive home past a place on the east side one morning and you see Dez. 40 seats. He got it. There's a hand-painted sign and a guy stacking chairs, and it is, by every measure you now have, a very small business. You count the seats from the car. You do the math in your head without meaning to, because you can't not do it anymore, and the number is nothing. It's a rounding error against a Saturday at your place. You feel sorry for him. You are genuinely, warmly sorry for him. Then you go back to your own club, and you find the thing that ends the good part of your life. The cash doesn't reconcile. Not by a lot. Not in a way that screams. But you're the one counting now, and the number you count and the number in the system are not the same number, and the gap doesn't move in a random direction. It moves one way. You ask about it, and the answer you get is not an answer, it's an education. They explain the drink tickets, the comps, the house chips for the top floor, the little in-house currency that guests buy at the desk and spend at the bar. You'd always thought of it as a convenience, a wristband thing, a way to keep card machines out of the crowd. It isn't a convenience. It's the gap where the cash and the register stop agreeing. Because when a club invents its own money, the club decides what counts as a sale. A guest hands over $400 at the desk and walks away holding chips. The register doesn't record $400. It records chips. The moment the money arrives and the moment the sale gets logged are two different moments, and two different moments can be made to disagree. In 2025, the New York Attorney General charged a hospitality company and 5 of its executives, 79 counts. At the center of it, the club's own house currency and the sales tax on it. Prosecutors say the company failed to collect and hand over more than $8 million. Those are charges. Nobody has been convicted, and they're entitled to a trial. But that case exists because of the exact scene you are looking at right now, at 27, standing in an office at 4 in the morning. You don't ask a second question. That's the part you'll think about later, that there was a second question available and you chose not to ask it. The room takes $110,000 tonight. You take a salary. And you now know, for certain, that this club keeps 2 sets of numbers. Level 6, the license. At 31, they offer you a piece. You've been running the room for 4 years. You've made them a great deal of money. And they sit you down and tell you that you're not going to be staff anymore, you're going to be a partner, and your name is going on the paper. It's the best night of your life. You call your mother. Here's what you don't understand about the paper. You think a nightclub is a building, a brand, a sound system, and a reputation. It isn't. Strip all of that out, and what a nightclub actually is, legally, is a liquor license. That's the asset. The building is rented. The sound system depreciates. The name can be repainted in a weekend. But the license is the thing that makes a room full of people legal, and without it, everything else you own is just furniture in the dark. And licenses have rules about who is allowed to hold one. Not who's allowed inside. Not who's allowed to run the place. Who's allowed to be an owner on the paperwork. States put rules on that. A felony record can block you from owning a piece of a licensed bar. And the law makes you list every owner by name, so the state knows exactly who's behind the business. Now flip that around. That's how this industry sees it. The rule doesn't stop a man with a record from running a room. It only stops him from being on the paper. So the room and the paper can be 2 different things. And if you can't be on the paper, you need someone who can. Someone whose name is clean. Someone whose name is clean. Someone like a manager who's been loyal for 4 years and who did not ask a second question at 4 in the morning. You sign it. You sign it happily, because at 31, nobody has ever offered you anything before, and this is the first thing that has ever felt like a rival. You have equity now, on paper. And you still don't know whose room it is. But it doesn't matter, because you're about to get your own. Level 7, the room. You're 36, and it's yours. You buy out the second location, you rebrand it, and you build the room you have been designing in your head since you were 19 on a sidewalk. The lighting rig, the layout, the route, the bottles walk. You put the good tables where people have to walk past them. And you stand at the door one Saturday, and there is a line around the block. You look at a group at the front for about a second and a half, and you say it. Not tonight. Let's talk about what the top of this business actually looks like, so you understand where you are. At the absolute ceiling, Las Vegas, a single nightclub can gross over $100 million in a year. Excess at the Encore has been ranked the highest grossing nightclub in America at somewhere around 103 to 105 million. Hakkasan was right behind it at roughly 100 to 103 million. In 1 year, America's 10 biggest clubs took in more than $550 million between them. That's the ceiling. You're not at the ceiling, but you have the busiest room in your city, and you are running numbers you could not have imagined at 19. So here's the number that should stop you. The average net profit margin for a bar or club is somewhere between 10 and 15%. About a tenth. You sell a bottle at more than 200% markup. Your pour cost is a beautiful 19. The room is full every single night. Then the year ends. Take out the rent, the staff, the security, the insurance, the licensing, the sound. Take out the breakage and the theft. Take out the dead Tuesdays and the 2 months when the weather is bad. You keep about a tenth of what came through the door. This is the loudest, most glamorous, highest revenue business you will ever touch in your life, and it is a mediocre way to make money. Dez's 40 seats have a better margin than your empire. So ask the question. You never do ask it, but ask it. If the margin is that thin, why does anyone want one of these this badly? The room takes more than it ever has. You keep a tenth. Level 8. The partner. The answer arrives on a Tuesday, which is fitting. A decision gets made about your room that you did not make. A supplier changes. A section gets held on a Friday for a group you've never heard of. You push back, and you get told, gently, that it's already been agreed. You ask, by who? And you get a name you have never heard in your life. So you go looking. You pull the operating agreement, the whole thing, the schedules, the exhibits, the parts you signed at 31 without reading because you were calling your mother. You follow the entity that holds your entity. You find the management agreement, the licensing fee, the consulting arrangement, the loan against the build-out that you've been told was an investment. And it resolves, cleanly, into a shape. Your name is on the license. Your name is on the disclosure. Your name is the one a regulator sees when a regulator looks, and the money answers to someone else. You were not made a partner at 31 because you'd earned it. You were made a partner at 31 because you had a clean record, a loyal history, and a demonstrated willingness not to ask a second question. Every rung you climbed, you thought you were being promoted. You were being qualified. You are not the owner of this room. You are the disclosure. You are the name that makes the paper legal, and the paper is the only part of this business that was ever the asset. And the worst part, the part that actually lands at 3 in the morning, sitting in your own empty club, is that there is no villain to go find. There's no man in a back office with a cigar. It's a structure. Entities holding entities, agreements referencing agreements, each one legal on its own, arranged so that the question who owns this room has no floor. You go down, and it just keeps handing you another company. The system isn't hiding an owner from you. The system is built so that there isn't one to find. You find out whose room it is. It's yours. Legally, entirely, on paper, yours. That's the whole trick. Level 9, the receipts. It doesn't end with police. Nobody kicks a door. It ends with an auditor. A letter arrives about a sales tax period from 4 years ago. It's polite. It has a case number. And you learn the thing that everyone in this industry learns eventually, which is that in a cash business, the danger was never the crime, it was the arithmetic. Because a nightclub generates a paper trail with every single transaction, and you have generated it for 20 years. The most famous room in the history of this business went down exactly this way. Studio 54, New York. The most photographed nightclub that has ever existed. Its owners were Steve Rubel and Ian Schrader. In 1979, they were charged with tax evasion, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy. The charge was skimming. Nearly $2.5 million in unreported income taken straight out of the club's receipts. The estimates of how much of the club's cash was going out the back ran as high as 40 to 60%. Rubel had a name for the system. He called it, in his own words, cash in, cash out, and skim. They hired one of the most feared lawyers in the country. In January 1980, they were each sentenced to 3.5 years in prison and fined $20,000. They went in that February. The club was sold before the end of the year for $4.75 million. They built the most desirable room on the planet, and that room is what convicted them. Every receipt, every register tape, every deposit that didn't match, the business itself was the evidence file. There's a second lesson, and it's worse. Peter Gatien ran New York nightlife in the 90s, the Limelight, the Tunnel, and the Palladium. In 1996, the federal government came for him. He went to trial, and he was acquitted. He won, and he still lost everything. The clubs went, the empire went. In 2003, he was deported to Canada. So understand what you're facing as you sit with your letter and your case number. Winning is not the same as surviving. You can be found not guilty and never get the room back because the room was never really the point and your name was never really yours. You take penalties. You take a settlement. You take the lawyers. And the thing you keep coming back to in the meetings is that the auditor is not asking you about anything you did. The auditor is asking you about things that happened in a room where your name was on the paper. Level 10, the rope. It's a Tuesday. It's 11:40 at night and it's cold. You're on a sidewalk on the east side of the city outside a place that used to be yours and isn't anymore, and you're not sure why you drove here. There's a rope. There's a man behind it with a clipboard he never looks at. Every few minutes he unhooks it and lets 4 people through. At the front of the line, there's a kid. He's maybe 19. He has a fake smile and real shoes, and he is doing the thing you did, standing very straight, doing his best to look the part. He's been out here 50 minutes. He'll get turned away. Then he'll go home and lie in bed and decide he wants to be the man holding it. Inside, that room will take about $40,000 tonight. You'll take nothing. You own nothing. 20 years, 10 rungs, and your name came off the paper the same way it went on because somebody needed it to? You drove past Dez's place on the way here. 40 seats, hand-painted sign. Still open, 12 years now. He owns all of it, every inch. Nobody ever structured anything around him. Nobody ever needed his signature on a disclosure. No auditor has ever sent him a letter with a case number on it. There was never enough cash moving through 40 seats to be worth hiding behind anybody. That's the whole thing. That's what the ladder was. Every rung you climbed bought you a better view of the room and a worse view of who owned it. At the bottom, you could see everything and own nothing. At the top, you owned it on paper and could see nothing at all. And the money never once belonged to the person standing closest to it. You get to the front of the line eventually. You're not even sure you want to go in. The man behind the rope looks at you for about a second and a half. Not tonight.